So China versus USA is a very, very big debate, and I think in artificial intelligence, it's arguably one of the most important ones. And I think China, on a very, very certain level, might actually be winning the AI race if we actually take a look at things. So it's important to know that this video is going to showcase every area of AI and robotics, and it's going to give you guys a comprehensive guide on where China is currently in terms of their AI development and their future plans and how they plan to compete with the US. So this video is honestly kind of interesting because when I was making this, I realized that China is certainly further ahead than we may think. So one of the things that I did see from China was, of course, their text to video model. Now, I didn't make a video on this, but a lot of people didn't actually see this. The model that they made was called Vidu, okay? And this is basically their artificial intelligence system, which can create generative videos. Now, I'm going to show you guys some of this because it's pretty incredible. But you can see right here that Vidu is able to generate videos that are on the level of Sora. I mean, take a look at some of the water consistency. Take a look at the dog that you can see right there. Take a look at some of these characters. I mean, I should just let this play out. So there we have the actual demo, and yeah, you guys can see that that was rather impressive. Now, it's like some kind of Inception thing going on here because I'm commenting over a video that was like, already done by myself. But the point here is that, from what we've seen, it's shown that, China has caught up pretty much to Sora. Now, whilst yes, Sora is probably a little bit more advanced, I do think that the second iteration of this model is probably going to be on the level of Sora. And I think it's rather important to, showcase just how quickly China have moved. And what was interesting was the fact that, a lot of the demos that we saw in Vidu were actually, showcased as a direct comparison to Sora. So whilst they may have not caught up directly, I think the most interesting thing was the fact that, maybe they didn't catch up to Sora, but was the fact that they actually beat and are kind of beating a lot of the, I guess you could say, models that are state of the art in the US. Well, not state of the art, yes, but the ones that you can actually access. Like, I'm not sure if you can access video yet, but the point is that Runway doesn't have these capabilities. I mean, I guess you could say Pika Labs doesn't have these kind of capabilities, so it really does go to show that China are making some significant breakthroughs here that I genuinely thought that Pika Labs and Runway would have made by now, which is genuinely quite surprising. So on the text to video aspect, and I know I probably should have spoke about text to video later, I just, thought that this is pretty crazy because, like I said, it's better than what we currently do have, because if we compare it to, I guess you could say Runway and Pika Labs, it's very, very fascinating with as to, what is currently available. So that was something that was pretty crazy. Now, in this, video, this is what, probably you really do want to see. And this is with regards to China's text model, okay? Now, I made another video on this, but like I said before, these videos don't get that much attention, but they are still very, very important, okay? So basically, what they did was they released a model called SenseTime 5.0 or SenseChat version 5, and they compared it to GPT-4 Turbo. And of course, GPT-4 Turbo, even in its current state, 4.0 is not the current leader in terms of benchmark capabilities. GPT-4 Turbo is, and on the benchmarks, pretty much across all of them, bar one or two, there just weren't many areas where this model actually surpassed GPT-4. I mean, there weren't many areas where it actually lost to it. You can see here that SenseChat version 5 actually surpasses GPT-4 Turbo, one of the recent models, in many different areas. And whilst, yes, if you do take a closer look at this, we can see that the discrepancies between SenseChat version 5 and GPT-4 Turbo's performance aren't that wide. It's still important to note that this is still very, very, very surprising. And then, of course, what they actually do, and this, pay attention here because I'm going to, say some things and I'm going to recall them. So you can see right here that they actually do compare this to GPT-4 Turbo, and that actually is to the eagle-eyed viewers, that it is the 1106. This isn't actually the most recent one, but it's not also a most outdated one as well. And we can see that the only benchmarks that it surpasses their model SenseChat version 5 on is, of course, the Math Zero Shot benchmark right here. And we can see that it's highlighted in the 61% area, and we can see that in this benchmark right here as well. So we can basically see that currently what we're looking at is a situation where across all of the benchmarks compared to GPT-4 Turbo, one of the most recent models, I don't know why they didn't do the most recent one, I'm guessing just based on where they are in their testing. And of course, we do have a comparison with Llama 3 70 billion parameters instruct. We can see that the differences from GPT-4 are honestly, I wouldn't say quite stark, but it doesn't just seem to be a benchmark, which is a state-of-the-art model, and it was released by Anthropic. Now, I've done this a little bit sloppily, but let me just explain to you what you're currently looking at. So all you're looking at is Claude 3's benchmarks, and we can see that it is compared to GPT-4 in this tab right here. And essentially, across the board completely, Claude 3's Opus model does surpass the benchmarks of GPT-4. Now, what this does mean here, what I've actually done here, is I've actually circled these areas where Claude 3 retains its leadership in terms of how far it is, but I've added X's here because these are areas where SenseChat v5 actually beats Claude Opus. So in the math benchmarks, which is math problem solving, it does better than Claude Opus there. We can see it's 61.9 and this one is 60.1. So that's where SenseChat v5 reigns supreme. Then of course we can see here on the Common Sense Knowledge, the HelloSwag, this is 95.4%. And then for here on the Common Sense HelloSwag, we can see that theirs is actually at 97%. So this is actually a huge improvement. We can see that 95.4% to 97.52% is a big improvement. However, Claude actually retains the leadership benchmarks in these areas where we can see the MMLU, the graduate level reasoning, the grade school math. But something that I do want to add, whilst yes, Claude 3 does have the best on these benchmarks, I would have to be honest and state that it isn't far off. Like, for example, if we look at the code on the human evaluation at 84.9%, or for example, if we look at the Big Bench Hard, we can see it's currently at 82.98%, whereas on the Big Bench Hard, it's at 86.8%. So, I mean, it is pretty interesting. And the point I'm trying to make here, guys, is that overall, you can see that basically China has caught up to the US standard in terms of GPT-4 capability. And you can see that they did a arena battle where they tried to showcase just how good their LLM system was compared to the other AI systems. And I think this stuff is really, really important because it shows us that across the board, other countries and other nations are really trying their best to catch up. Now, what was crazy as well was this image generation stuff. You can literally see here that this new model that they made, SenseTime 5.0, was able to generate a really, really nice array of images that were really, really done well. I mean, it was pretty impressive on how they managed to catch up to Midjourney. And you can see that, the quality of this stuff was really nice. And its ability to generate diverse facial expressions and styles that carry the subtlety and richness of film-grade portraits. That description is pretty good, but I've got to be honest, if this is their text-to-image generation model, I have to say that whilst yes, Midjourney might be on this level, this is definitely something that looks really, really good. I mean, we can't say that this doesn't look completely realistic, and as for the prompt, I think this is something that does do it really, really well. Now, what was also interesting in this video that I did manage to find was the fact that they also had a 1.8 billion parameter model that actually did a lot better than the 7 billion parameter models that were released, I think, earlier this year. So it's pretty crazy that they're not just going after the standard LLMs that we do use on, you know, larger tasks. They are pretty much going after every bit of access. You can see Sense Chat Lite 1.8b that just surpasses all of these other things, surpasses Llama 2 7b and surpasses Llama 2 13b and even Google's Gemma 7b. So that is pretty crazy, and I think they do have some independent benchmarks here because they don't seem to have any of the industry standard ones. But the point here is that China is definitely ramping up their efforts in order to catch up or even perhaps overtake the current capabilities of US AI systems. And it really is interesting because I guess you could say some of this stuff are doing even better than the US counterparts. Now, another area in which China is far exceeding what many people thought they were capable of in that time frame, because I think the problem here is that a lot of people were thinking that yes, China of course is good at creating software and stuff like that, but the problem is that with AI you have this time lag to where, you know, training a model and of course doing the safety evaluations, all of that stuff does take a decent amount of time, but somehow China have managed to ruthlessly get their models into a position where they're doing very well. Recently, there was this model called the Yi Large Preview, and this was actually at the number 2 spot until a couple of, you know, updates were there, and Google actually, I think they did some post training on their Gemini 1.5 Pro API, and then they managed to get their Arena Elo even higher, and you can see that it is now above Claude Opus, which is pretty crazy. And you can see that Yi Large is a Chinese model released by a company called Yi, and I'm going to show you guys some of the information in a second. But the Chinese AI company behind the model Yi Large is 01.ai, and this startup was actually founded by Kai-Fu Lee, a prominent figure in the AI industry who had previously led Google China and founded Sinovation Ventures. 01.ai has quickly risen to prominence in the AI field, actually achieving unicorn status with a valuation of over $1 billion within just 8 months of its founding, which is absolutely incredible. And the Yi large model is a closed-sourced large language model with over 100 billion parameters, and apparently this model has been reported to surpass OpenAI's GPT-4 in reasoning and in several other benchmarks. And not only is Yi Large Preview their only model, they also have other versions of the Yi model, including Yi 1.534 billion parameter model, which combines computational efficiency with broad capabilities. They've also introduced APIs optimized for various tasks as well. And here is a short clip of the founder talking about this.
So we are launching today our new model called E Large, which is the model that has API being released throughout the world. We intend to be a global company, so not just for China, but for China, we've developed an app on top of E Large. So E Large is to GPT-4 as Wanzhi is to ChatGPT. We now have both. 01.ai, my company, was founded only 1 year ago. And when we started, we were at least 7-8 years behind the OpenAI. But now I'm proud to say that our latest model, E Large, is performing comparably with GPT-4 by third-party evaluations. And on top of a powerful model is really the only way to support a product with product market fit that will excite users, bring about the ChatGPT moment. So we are hopeful that our model, with its performance, will provide a chatbot that will rival ChatGPT for China. But we also think the model will support all kinds of apps throughout the world.
So that is the CEO talking about how they've managed to do 8 years of work in just 1 year. And that is, of course, a remarkable, remarkable achievement, and hats off, because I'm sure that took a level of hard work and dedication that we've honestly never seen before. Now, it's not just AI systems where China is making rapid progress. We have humanoid robots. Take a look at their recent demo of their Unitary G1. This is their most impressive feat to date yet, because not only is this robot very, very flexible and very, very sturdy and very, very strong, this humanoid robot is incredibly cheap. It is only, and I repeat, only $16,000, which means the research efforts behind this robot are about to exponentially increase due to the affordability of this. And I mean, it's really, really shocking at how quickly they've been managing to get these robots and build robots that are humanoid in their form factor, that are so effective yet so, I guess you could say, creepy in this aspect. But that is something for another day, because other robotics companies are doing this as well, but so much stronger than what we initially thought. And I mean, it's a very, very impressive humanoid robot that is probably going to be walking around cities in some time in the near future, completing a variety of different tasks. So the Unitary G1 is a robot that is founded by the company Unitary, and they've previously done robotics demos where they've showcased some very, very impressive capabilities of their robot, including breaking the world record for the fastest running robot. And I can't imagine what this robot is going to look like when it's running, walking around, and doing some very impressive tasks. So China's, I guess you could say, infrastructure is very, very, very suited to support the robotics infrastructure. So I wouldn't be surprised if China is arguably the leading manufacturer of robotics in the years to come. Now, they've also got other humanoid robots, although I can't show this one because they copyrighted my other video, which means that, the video, I think it did get taken down, but essentially it was a robot that does have a large language model integrated into it, and it's able to give the robot, I guess you could say, advanced capabilities such as conversing with you and performing more tasks than it usually can. And China have also made this robot recently, which is 100% automated, the Astrobot S1. This is the robot that, I wouldn't say it broke the internet, but genuinely it is so impressive that I'm still like just speechless at this point, but struggling to believe that this is, of course, not teleoperated, or that this is, of course, not some kind of, fake demo, because it's so impressive that it just surprises me that this is even possible to do. So you can see that they also have a large language model in there, and this is a completely autonomous robot that is able to do a variety of tasks. So, I mean, what do you guys think about this completely? Do you think China will surpass the US in the coming years in terms of humanoid robotics and in terms of AI development? Do you think China is not going to ever catch up, and they may never catch up because the US is far ahead with OpenAI and companies like Boston Dynamics? Or do you think this terminal race condition that we've applied to ourselves and the market dynamics are going to force more innovative companies to come out of China, potentially leading to breakthroughs that could shift the balance in terms of who is leading the AI race? Now, I personally believe that the US is probably going to stay ahead, but I don't think that they will stay ahead in terms of robotics developments, because China by far have outlined their master plan for 2027, where they aim to be the leader in terms of robotics. And if you've been paying any attention to what's been going on in the electric vehicle space, we can see that that is having a giant impact on the US car market sales, and I think we're going to see a very similar thing in robotics too. The point being that, look, China's infrastructure, it supports mass production, and the mass production of humanoid robots has to come from somewhere, and I wouldn't be surprised if that place was China. So with that being said, let me know what you thought about this. China is definitely further ahead than you may think, and it's very interesting to see how this next wave of technology is going to be developed, because I think that now that this, giant race has been kicked off, I think that we're truly about to see innovation on a completely different level.